I would like to welcome Christine Drinan. Christine, welcome.
Thank you so much, Barry, for having me.
My pleasure. I'm so excited because you were working a so-called 9-to-5 job in the financial world, and you found something that wasn't being addressed. Would you like to explain a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be able to share the story about my company, Galavante. 5 years ago, I was working at Blackstone, a large private equity firm, and instead of 9 to 5, it was more 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 every day. And it was a great company that I worked for, and I really enjoyed the people. But I had always felt that there was something else out there for me, though I didn't really know exactly what that was. And over the course of the years that I worked at Blackstone, I would look at the people who were super successful at the firm, like the vice chairman, and they were so passionate about what they were doing. And my realization came one day when I was in our offices overlooking Park Avenue, and I realized that I was never, ever going to be as passionate about our business as some of our managing directors and our vice chairman of the firm. And that's when I really decided that I needed to figure out what it was that I was passionate about. And of course, our company went public, and I waited several more years, but eventually I was traveling back and forth because my husband was doing a really large restructuring in Europe for his job, and I was traveling to see him on the weekends because we've been married 17 years, and the reason why our marriage works is because we see each other every single week. And during that time, I was trying to find good resources for people like us, who I classified as the working jet set. And I couldn't find good travel resources that would give us cool restaurants and places to stay and things to do. There were great things for backpackers. There were great things for people who were more in the retirement phase of their life. But there was this whole valuable demographic of people that were not being served. So hence the idea and the spark of the inspiration came for Galavante. Of course, me being a finance person, I didn't just pick up and leave my job right away. I really thought about whether or not there was a compelling business to be able to create a large travel community for the higher end traveler. And so, like any good finance person, I put together a business plan. And I looked at the numbers, and I looked at the team that I could build. And after a period of six months or so, I realized that there was really a compelling business. And of course, there were a number of sessions with my husband, with my friends, with people who I put together as an advisory board to see whether or not this was something that could be viable. But finally, at the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, I enrolled at Columbia Business School, and I decided to take the plunge and create my company, Galavante.
How did you come up with the name Galavante?
I was a young child. I think back now with so much empathy for my mother, but I was one of those kids who could never sit still. I constantly had to be doing an activity or playing with friends or doing something with my time rather than just sitting around. And my mother said to me with so much frustration as I was growing up that she couldn't understand why I couldn't just be still and why I had to be constantly gallivanting around all the time. And so that really stuck with me as I was growing up and as I became a working professional, where I've always just had this drive to constantly be doing something productive. And when it came time to come up with a name for my company, Galavante stuck in my mind because of what my mother had told me when I was younger. And then also it really describes what we do. We wander around the world and we find the best of everything. And the best doesn't mean the most expensive. The best in many cases means the most authentic. And so I felt that it was the best name, and it also really encapsulated what we were doing at our company.
When you go into a city and you're cold turkey, how do you research it?
Well, first, there's a great deal of work that we do prior to even stepping foot in a city. I reach out to my network, and our team at Galavante reaches out to their networks to be able to get recommendations that we can potentially use within our articles and within our travel guides. So we do a lot of due diligence before we even step in the city. I look at all of the major magazines as to what they're recommending. And then when I get to a city, I have an entire list of places and a really detailed, very rigorous itinerary for what I'm going to accomplish during that time. So, for example, I was just in Copenhagen, which really is one of the most trending cities right now in travel. Not only because Noma, which is voted the best restaurant in the world is there, but also there are so many other chefs that have come from Noma and are now opening up their own restaurants, that Copenhagen has really become one of the hotbeds of the culinary scene.
Oh, wow.
So when I go to a city, if I have 3 days, I have 2 days, I have 4 days in any city, it's not that I'm just going to one place for lunch. I'm going to 4 places for lunch. And I'm waking up at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I'm starting and I'm hitting everything from the destinations and getting the insider perspective. I'm talking to people who are on the ground. I'm researching the places that have been recommended to us. I'm meeting with people who are locals. At times, I'll do interviews with the chefs, and I'll be able to get the lay of the land on the culinary scene from them. But like I said, it's more than just leisurely experiencing a place. We do so much due diligence when we're in a city, and we really try to experience everything, because every single recommendation that we give you at Galavante not only is something that is recommended by someone who's part of the working jet set, so it's somebody who's your peer, but it's also something that we've personally experienced.